folks. All right, so we got some very spicy things to talk about in the world of finances and TCG. Starting off with Magic in Standard. Let's not mind about the the crazy numbers from Cloud, Midgard Mercenary, from Final Fantasy because I have no idea why it's going bonkers right now. I've checked the TCG player, last sold. It's just steady at $30, 30 to 40, maybe $100 in foil, but I don't know why why Goldfish is getting these numbers or where it's coming from. So we're definitely gonna ignore that until it gets fixed. I think it's getting fixed at this point. But looking at the losers, it's just some of the prices being corrected from the pre-order price or the pre-sale price from the hype. So we're hopefully getting to see the actual prices by next week during the pre-release. Uh, but let's start off with the winners. Starting off with Raban, the Bull of Alamigo. So if you've noticed why I skipped Vivi, because he went from 160 to 148. So he technically lost value, which is kind of normal. He's just correcting its price because of how hype the card is. It's pretty normal for that card to like dip down in price. Maybe if we get the card on the pre-release event or like during official release, it's gonna start to pump up when people start playing the card. But I want to see new cards in our stream. So starting off with Raban from Final Fantasy 14, if I'm not mistaken. So it has Ward, pay life equal to Raban's power, and when Raban attacks, attach up to one target equipment you control to target attacking creature, which is pretty good for a 2 drop. It reminds me of the Pure Steel Paladin, where you can just equip for 0 your equipments. So this one just needs to attack. So and it's very flavorful with the red color. Already sitting at almost $12 ever since it got spoiled recently this week. So pretty insane. So a lot of uh, implications here for all these formats. Starting off with modern, you can see Boros, or rather Hammer Time, can splash red to make this card work. Commander, it's like your extra Godo Bandit Warrior, which is a combo esque combat based deck, which is still pretty powerful. So I'm not surprised if Godo becomes very popular again in Commander. And of course, it can also synergize with Cloud, Midgard Mercenary, because he can basically search any equipment in your deck. So you just need a red white based commander like Cloud himself from the starter kit, or I believe the Commander Precon deck. So there you have it. And of course, Jumbo Cactuar for the past month, sitting at $47. Very impressive numbers for a card that was already revealed for like the past 2 months. So people are still very hyped on playing this card because it has some crazy stats. When it attacks, it gains 9999 power until end of turn. So pretty insane. You can just easily kill someone on the board. Not so much implications in standard, but heavily on commander because you got cards like Tifa Martial Artist, where you can have second combat phase, which is very powerful. Atla Palani, it can basically cheat your big creature on the board with your eggs. And Crash the Blood Braid, that says whenever another creature dies, you may put X counters where X is that creature's power. So on combat, you sacrifice the Cactuar, and then you just put all the 10,000 power on it, or uh, on one of your creatures, which is insane. So that's pretty much why people are still very excited to get this card. But it may slowly, dip even further as we get a hold of the cards, especially during pre-release. All right. Next card to look at is Balan Garden Seed Academy. It's definitely one of my favorite towns in Final Fantasy set because it's from the Final Fantasy 8 series. It's my favorite game, and it's already sitting at $10, almost $10, which is pretty insane for a town because most of the towns were pretty lackluster, I would say, in terms of utility. The only good town was I think the starting town, where you can, it's basically a mana confluence.
The other town too for Popper specifically,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
Gain Life. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that too. That was like $6 for a
Yeah.
common. So Balam Garden is looking to be very powerful as well in standard. Especially we saw the spoiler of the new Simic Commander in Final Fantasy, which makes your towns untap, uh, which is crazy for a commander. So the implications for this card still in commander, we might get to see it sometime in standard, but Omo, Omega, and Jolrel are definitely your favorite semi commanders to play this card because Omo turns your lands into every land type, and then Omega, um, it's just a Final Fantasy card that you can play with your Simic land. And Jolrail can turn one of your lands uh, into a creature, which is pretty good. And of course, going into our sealed, we're definitely this is like the third time we've featured the Final Fantasy collector boosters. Just because if you look at the graph, it's just super stable. Like in terms of its price, like for the past month or so, it's just going up and up. People are still buying this product because of how good it is. Like especially since they've already revealed the details of where you can get your collector boosters. The most normal thing that you would see is you will get a guaranteed commander card in your collector booster. Uh, could be foil, could be non-foil, but the borderless characters that you saw in the spoilers, you can only get the foil in the collector boosters, which is gonna be like for a ton of money. So that's why the price of this product is going up, and people are just going crazy to like keep buying it. And of course, the main reason why everyone is looking forward to this product is because of the traveling chocobo serialized card, the golden version, which has only 77 copies. Everyone's just gunning to get this as early as possible. So we'll have to wait and see. People start showing off this card pretty much soon in the marketplace. And again, my estimate for this card would be at around like 4 digits USD. Um, could potentially go up to five just because of how limited this card is. But we'll have to wait and see. Not sure if it could beat like the cards like the One Ring or Black Lotus, but time will tell because Wizards is definitely doing a good job with pushing these products. All right, so that's it for Magic. Let's move on to One Piece and Card Fight Vanguard. All right,
No, that's the deck.
that's the deck. All right, my bad. Let's start off here.
Where is?
All right, let's go with
Oh.
Vanguard first.
Okay, here we go for Vanguard. It's
Hello.
Lephonohelia. The Velena deck was hyped a while back during the release of BT08, as it is more well rounded compared to when it was released. It has since gotten a few top 32s, but not much that would say that it is a top tier contender. Movement is most likely people trying to cash in on the hype before the set is released in English, which is about to be in June or July, I think. So that's that. So next here is Blessed Dragon Gobelius. It's another card that is increasing mostly due to hype. People are banking on this card to be used in Liel Amorta decks come DZBT10 because Liel Amorta is confirmed to be getting new support,
No.
but
Wala naman.
uh, it is not confirmed if Gabelius will be an important part of the deck. So speculators are hoping that Gabelius will be a key part of the deck, so which is why it's steadily increasing in price. So and then lastly is uh, triggers collectively known as shield fronts. Front triggers, collectively known as shield fronts, as they have the ability to gain plus 5k shields. And the fronts are the most popular of the shield cycle of cards, which is basically triggers that have plus 5k shield, as they can block 20k attacks by themselves. And they were not reprinted in DBT 13, DBT 10, and with attacks in the current meta reaching higher than ever numbers, shield fronts are almost necessary for every deck. So that's it for Vanguard.
All right, so it looks like we're gonna have to skip One Piece because looks like Anton forgot to
No,
send
it's
us the
actually
file.
because OP12 is coming up and there is not much movement as of the moment. So
Ah, okay.
more info will be revealed in this month, actually.
Yeah, I think it's going to be released this weekend,
Yeah.
so we'll see what the market watch is going to be for One Piece next week. All right, so let's move on to the next segment of the stream, which I believe is Top Deck of the Week. All right, Top Deck of the Week brought to you by Top Deck Games. We got a very spicy deck for you to look at. Um, but it's not intended for the the Corey haters because it's another Corey Steel deck. But it's the deck that's trying to beat itself technically, rather the Izzet Corey Steel Cutter decks. This is the four color Beanstalk deck, which was brought by Kevin Anctil. It got to the top eight, if I'm not mistaken, from the regional champs, Montreal. It did pretty good because it's trying to hedge over the Core Steel Cutter matchup where you're trying to deal with the Cutter itself, but at the same time, you don't want to lose to uh, the resource game where is it prowess definitely shines a lot with the stock up. So how do you beat that? You play up the beanstalk, which synergizes with heart elemental, and this town ain't big enough. It's still a very powerful removal. Heart elemental is a very interesting card to look at. It's for 6 mana, 4/5, but you can cast it for 1 mana if you have a bunch of instants and sorceries on the graveyard. And then it has the adventure, which you can discard your hand, then draw 2 cards. If it's the only card in your hand, you can just draw 2 cards off of it, and then cast the creature side, and then trigger the beanstalk just to gain all that resource later in the game. And then to even chain this even further, you have analyze the pollen, which is kind of like a tutor where you can just collect evidence and then search for your heart elemental to chain into the stoke genius into the creature itself. So a lot of ways to trigger your core steel cutter while synergizing with up the beanstalk. And then it's I guess that's one way to beat the prowess decks, especially. But it's definitely on the control side where you're just trying to set up your board with the beanstalk and the cutter. Um, so and at the same time, you're not suffering your matchups against the rest of the field, like the blue white omniscience, the mono red, even the blue white control. So and of the likes. So the pros of this deck, very versatile. It can switch between aggressive and control roles. Like I said, if it goes to the prowess matchup, it's definitely going to be on the control side because the prowess matchups are very fast when they start setting up their core steel cutter board. So you can bounce their cutters with this down or even their tokens if you're trying to save life total. And then you have a bunch of removals like Heritage Reclamation, technically in the main board, and Roaring Furnace, while still digging for more answers. And then you have a very interesting card, which is Tarnation Vista, since you have a bunch of permanents that give you different colors like red, green, and blue. So Roaring Furnace gives you red and blue, while Up the Beanstalk is green. So with Tarnation Vista, it can float you for 3 mana. So it's kind of like a pseudo uh, Gaia's Cradle, which is very potent, or like what was that called Nykthos. So it can help you chain more spells as you keep digging into your deck. So card advantage, up the beanstalk is your best bet, and it has just great synergy with this town. Ain't big enough. You can bounce it the up the beanstalk while drawing another card off of its trigger. So that's why the card is there. And then it has synergistic interactions, a combination of prowess creatures and spellcasting creates opportunities for explosive turns. So you still have the same shell of the is it prowess, but it you just have more complicated turns as you're trying to set up while trying to slow down your uh, opponent's is it prowess game plan. So the cons, mana based complexity. Why the hell would you play Tarnation Vista in the 3 color deck? I don't know why. Um, but that's pretty much it. Like it enters tap. That's the downside. So especially if you're playing the fast lands, it's kind of risky to play those, especially against these very efficient decks. So it's risking of color screw. or Mana Screw in general. And again, it's very vulnerable to aggro. Mono red aggro is like one of the more efficient decks to beat the prowess decks. So this might falter in the mono red aggro matchup. And then the sideboard constraints, balancing sideboard options. If you look at the list right here, it has a lot of good stuff, but if you're not used to the metagame, you may be confused on what to cut during post board, especially with cards like an extra heritage reclamation, keen eyed curator, which is double green, and then you have cards like Twin Moss Storm Brood from Tarkir, where it has a red removal of an omen, and then it has a white side of a dragon. So those are pretty hard to cast, if you ask me. That's why it's splashing white of some sort. So that's what I mean by sideboard constraints. If you're not used to playing this deck, you're definitely gonna have a headache of just trying to figure out how to beat some of these decks. Of course, so final thoughts, four color beans with the Prow Shell, it offers dynamic and engaging playstyle. So if you like very convoluted turns, but if you don't want to play the Is It Prowess deck, you just want to beat it while not suffering so much with the other matchups, especially with Blue White Omniscience and Demir Midrange on the rise. Those are the top decks that are looking to beat the Prowess decks, aside from Mono Red, which is aggro. It's like I think that's like the only matchup that you have to worry about if you're playing this deck. So uh, if you want big brain decks, this is the deck I would heavily recommend. So and then there's the winner right there, the blue white omniscience player. Uh, his name was Lyndon Coots. There you go. So congratulations. And then Kevin Ansel. Totally forgot his face. He's just somewhere there in the picture. So that's my top deck of the week for this week. Four color beans. Moving on to One Piece and Cardfight Vanguard.
Okay, thank you very much there, Jerson. So here we go with a fan favorite, Red Green Smoker once again, showing its face in the metagame. So why use Red Green Smoker? Because it is aggro heaven. Smoker's ability is very simple. You have 2 extra Dawn when you have a character of power 7,000 or more, giving you more bang for your buck in calling stronger units or to stack Dawn cards on a character, effectively giving you 12 Dawn cards per turn. So of course you have Sanji, which is a very efficient attacker for 3 cost, as it reaches 6,000 by itself, or early aggro. And of course you have very powerful green cards such as Eustace Captain Kidd and Hody Jones to stall the game or open the opponent's defenses. So of course, the pros of this deck: leader skill is annoying for opponent to deal with because the passive plus 1,000 during the opponent's turn for the Navy and Punk hazard cards is very annoying for most people to attack into. Effectively, you have 12 Dawn every turn. Sanji is a very efficient attacker for 3 Dawn or 3 mana, and Smoker 5 gives you another Dawn to use, giving you up to 13 Dawn every turn. Cons: black, red, and blue can easily move 8 kid, as like what we said with Bonnie. No real way to aggro outside of Sanji because this rather plays more of a mid-range deck that plays 2 big characters per turn with the 13 Dawn and plays like a bad control deck with its events. And of course, other than that, there is really no clear strategy other than just being a mid-range big beatdown deck.
Right.
So yeah, final yeah. So Smoker is a good deck in reaching the 6K threshold in power of in a meta filled with GP and UP Luffy, which is 6,000 base leaders. However, the deck flounders outside of that fact and relies heavily on an amalgamation of playstyle of wanting to be the aggro player but also control the board. And of course, you're just mostly focusing on playing 2 big characters per turn, which most people can deal with, especially with UP Luffy, which just hoard hand cards as every turn because it can draw twice per turn. However, it is still a good tier 2 to 3 strategy that may be fine for local flagships if you just want to try something new. So that's it for One Piece. It's now time for Card Fight Vanguard.
So here go for Vanguard, it's Houndraiser. So what is the general game plan? You use Aoi or Mishiro to call out high beast race cards from your deck. So this allows you to set up a board for little to no cost and also compress your deck, making sure you hit your triggers. Additionally, one of the best advantage engines in Vanguard is Selgaon, meaning you can convert that field advantage into hand advantage. Addi- And then Awoy not only calls out high beasts from the deck, it also allows them to attack from the back and perform dive checks. Use this ability on Melgaon to push for numbers, or Rigaon to make sure the opponent spends two or more cards to defend an attack. So the strengths here is Selgaon is one of the best advantage engines in the current metagame, and Houndraiser is able to immediately tutor it out, and it is the reason why this deck should be on your radar. And the deck is able to build out a board from little to no cost, sometimes not even spending a card from the hand. And high beast attacking from the back and performing drive checks might seem non-dangerous, but it can mess up your guarding, especially when they hit triggers. So what are the weaknesses? Despite having one of the strongest advantage engine in the game, which is Elgaon, the available high beast card pool is shallow. And you are able to build a board for no cost, but if you are against board wipe decks such as Mavzagara or Gandiva, you it suffers from being able to rebuild, as it has no means to recycle cards from the drop zone. And smarter players can and will play around your high beast drive checks. So final thoughts here, it's an interesting deck that has found minor, meaningful success as it is currently has access to one of the strongest card in the Keter card pool. And the deck itself can feel very bland as there are very little high beast attackers to choose from. Despite this, the deck has potential and it will only get stronger the more high beast we may get in the future. So that's it for Vanguard.
All right. Thank you so much, Gibro number two. Let's move on to the last segment, Ebb Stream, which is Judge Call. Take it away, Carlo G. All right, let's move on to the last segment, which is Judge Call. Thank you for that, Carlo G. Let's move on with Sean. Shout out to Sean from MTG Davao community. Um, he and his opponents are playing at the regional champs qualifiers in top deck games, of course, TD Fest. Before their game starts, the judge pauses them for a deck check, which is pretty much normal. Usually happens in between rounds. Well, it also happens in the first round. Super RNG. And after a few minutes, Sean is called in privately by the judge, and the judge shows that although his deck list is accurate, he found a Mayhem Devil RCQ promo card in his deck box. What is the appropriate infraction penalty and fix? So I'm just gonna go next
Yeah.
because this is a little bit complicated for Judge Call. So shout out to Sean once again. Thank you for the pictures. The definition for this infraction is a tournament error deck problem from IPG 3.5. So this is a scenario of a deck problem. Any cards or extra cards stored together with your deck considered be a part of your sideboard. So there it is right there in the definition. If there are extra cards stored with the sideboard, it could conceivably be played in the player's deck. They'll be considered a part of sideboard unless they are promo cards that have been handed out as part of the event, which technically is what happened in this scenario. Very specific scenario, by the way. So there are some exemptions, such as the Mayhem Devil promo. So after further investigation by the judge, in this scenario, the promo card was the same promo card that was distributed in the previous event. So technically, he could be uh, flagged for a game loss. But of course, it's up to the judges decision whether he or she wants to make that penalty. So normally this could be fended off with warning as a penalty. And then just a reminder to make sure that the cards are separated from the actual deck that you are presented with the deck list that you've submitted. So this is just a reminder for most of our competitors to make sure that you don't have any extra cards lying around in your deck box when you're playing your competitive events. Because there will be a time where you know there are just some judges that are they just want to stick by the book and lay down the big penalty, which is the game loss. So you don't want that to happen. So there are already situations where it did happen, because they're just stricter, and they just wanna don't want to cause any other complications to the tournament. So in this case, easy fix is a warning, especially uh, if you're a new judge, or if you're not sure how to handle this, if this is your first encounter with this problem. So, but it could be, there is a potential for an upgrade into a game loss, because Wizards does recognize that, game loss might be the correct uh, penalty, but of course, if it was just a game loss, then almost all of the deck checks will will have a game loss. So they don't want that to happen. So that's why most of the time you could just fend off with a warning if uh, you're for sure that the player uh, is not intended to having that card in the first place. Like he just didn't have any other place to put his or her cards, uh, especially if it's a promo card, right? From the similar event of the season. So there you have it. That is my judge call for today. Be sure to double check your decks before you present them to your opponents and to your judges to avoid these situations. So
Always bring a second deck box.
yeah, or a binder. You can just put him in a binder. That's pretty much it. All right, so let's move on to One Piece card game.
Okay, very easy one here. So you have Nami from OPO1. So Busoy plays Nami, OPO1-016, looking at the top 5 cards of his deck and sees the OPO6-010 O Nami as the only Straw Hat type character. However, he is hesitant to add Onami as Onami has the Nami in its name because Nami says, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal up to one Straw Hat type character from your hand other than Nami and add it to your hand and then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. So the question is, can Busoy add Onami from Nami's effect?
If Onami is a Straw Hat type character, I would say yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it can't.
Okay, yeah. So yes, basically the effect is that Nami specifically does not allow a card named Nami. However, Onami is not Nami because it has a different name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a different card because not the words in the parentheses are specific.
I see. I see.
So it's looking
But
for
it's
the
a Straw
specific
Hat,
name.
right?
It's a straw hat,
Okay,
yes.
so you can still put it. Yeah. So not because of uh this name, but rather
Yeah,
the
because
card
it's
type.
a legal target. Yeah.
Yep. All right. All right. Let's move on to Cardified Vanguard, Gibra number 2.
Okay, here we go. Can Kenny use Hound Racer Awoy skill to Soul Blast 2 and search his deck for a Miko Todo? So Awoy says Soul Blast 2, search your deck to up to one High Beast and call it the rear guard. So Miko Todo says this card is always regarded as a Sergaon, and Sergaon is a Keter Sanctuary with High Beast race.
Ooh.
So can Kenny Soul Blast 2 and search for Miko Todo?
I would say yes. I mean, you got all the info.
Okay, so answer here is
Oh,
no.
no. Wow.
Miko Todo only regards its name as Sergaon. This does not mean that Miko Todo is treated to have any information Sergaon might have, such as power, skill icons, or race. As such, even though Miko Todo is regarded as Sergaon, it is a Koro Koro race unit and cannot be called via Hound Racer Awoy because it looks for high beasts.
Oh, that sucks.
Oh.
Sorry, Kenny. You can't have that card. All right. Quite straightforward, but that was actually a tricky one in the last one. So thank you for that. So that's it for this week in our TD Talks. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe the stream. Definitely helps support this cause and expose our community to every single one of your family and friends in your circle. So this is TD Bappa with G Bros 1 2 signing off. Peace.
Peace out.
All right, stay dry, guys. Stay dry.